The floodgates have opened now. We had the premiere last night of Spider-Man No Way Home. Don't worry, there's going to be absolutely no spoilers in this video. So, what is freaking good, YouTube? WarStew here. If you're new around here, make sure to subscribe to never miss any of the videos. Check us out on Instagram at WarStew. Check us out on Twitter, WarStewG. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. That helps the channel out massively. So, I don't usually do this, but we're going to go over early reactions to the movie and see if people are being honest and see what are people saying. There tends to be a generic standpoint for the early reactions and then some over-the-top reactions, which realistically you can't really say this about this movie because it doesn't really say anything. So let's get into the early reactions on the Twitter sphere. So Kirsten, who is verified, said the following: Spider-Man No Way Home is a love letter to the fans that should be seen with fans. Don't go to the premiere then. Feel safe to do so. It's the first time since Endgame I've truly felt an audience presence. Would add to your movie going experience. Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. I mean, I've seen a bunch of movies where the audience reaction was pretty good. Dune, A Quiet Place too, but okay, interesting. Courtney Howard on the Twitter sphere, also verified, says this: superb surprises, most notably in the third act. Bolster of the more sluggish storytelling aspect. Interesting. Very interesting. Alicia, also verified. There's a pattern here. Spider-Man No Way Home delivers on a huge stakes while offering up some of the most emotional character beats we've ever seen in the MCU, along with some big laughs. Tessa Smith, aka Mama's Geek, also verified. These villains are not back just to put fans in seats. Well, they actually are. They're actually used incredibly. Everyone has a storyline, a plot point, and a meaningful really interesting. So let's go over some more super duper Twitter reviewers, or whatever you want to call them. So Clayton Davis, Spider-Man No Way Home has the beginning, middle, of an end, and like those three elements, Tom Holland and Zendaya are good at making me believe they are those characters. The special effects look good. I like the fights. I had a lot of fun. Eric Davis. These are all verified so far. I've actually not come across one that isn't verified. I can confidently say Spider-Man No Way Home is the best live-action Spider-Man movie. I like how he said live action. Is it going to be better than Into Spider-Verse 1? I don't know. A thrilling and emotional end to the Homecoming trilogy, but also a smart and fun, exciting tribute to 20 years of Spider-Man. Both hilarious, heartbreaking, who dies, and honestly loved every second. Okay, that one felt a bit more transparent and a bit more honest. Spider-Man No Way Home is immensely satisfying. You'll cry, happy tears, sad tears, and cheer in the theater. I honestly don't think that's going to happen for me. The middle gets a little clunky because there's so many characters, but the third act is so dynamic, fun, and powerful, it more than makes up for it. And that's a common point on more of the Rotten Tomato Metacritic scores. A lot of them say there's a lot in this movie that doesn't work overall, but it kind of does work overall. Alex, also verified. Spider-Man No Way Home shockingly works by the focus on Tom Holland's Spider-Man front and center. It's still packed with fan service and pays off 20 years of movies. But most of all, it's funny, fun, and often extremely emotional. Stay spoiler-free as long as possible. So that's a really positive reaction, and that's like probably the only reaction so far that actually tells us anything. So that is cool, and that is most people's worry that the movie is not going to be focused on Tom Holland because there's so many other characters. Adam B. Very verified again. If any movie this year was engineered from top to bottom to be seen in a theater with an audience, it is Spider-Man No Way Home. Its many pleasures are magnificent by how much joy it brings. Strangers sitting nearby. That's a pretty cool reaction. Kind of honest. Hector, also verified. Spider-Man No Way Home is one of the best superhero movies of all time. It just continuously proves over and over again why Peter Parker is the greatest fictional character ever. So these reviews are actually getting a bit more transparent and a bit more honest. So Jason C, verified, had this to say: No Way Home is in great. Endgame levels. Wow, they nailed it. That's cool. That's not really giving too much away. A lot of these reactions they're pretty much the same thing if you haven't noticed by now. So let's find a few more. Brian, also verified. Spider-Man No Way Home is probably the best time I've had in the theater since Endgame. Tom Holland just owns it. The Thing, even though it's obviously insane at times, it's such a Spidey movie. Brandon Davis from Combat.com, verified. Spider-Man No Way Home is the most satisfying Spider-Man movie you can imagine today. Now, when people keep saying it's the best Spider-Man movie in the trilogy, it's like Homecoming, Far From Home. I'm sorry to say this, guys, but the standard wasn't very hard to beat. The movie delivers. It's packed and moves lightning speed, relentless. It's just satisfying and rewarding. Hats off to John Watts for landing this one. Just an epic movie. Oh, wow. That's an interesting. Oh, wow. We've got a review that isn't from someone verified. Max. Very much the movie I was expecting, yet No Way Home is the surrealist version of it. It uses the Kevin Feige IP gimmicky to define what it means to be Spider-Man and the sacrifice inherent to the mantle. A perfect trilogy. That's a pretty interesting comment. Umberto Gonzalez. This one's going to be interesting. Believe the hype. Spider-Man No Way Home is absolutely incredible. Not only the best superhero movie of the year, that's subjective, but hands down the best Spider-Man film ever. That honors what came before. Yeah, that kind of looked like a biased review. See, the thing is with most of these early reactions is they want to get their quote on posters, on billboards and that kind of stuff. So they're going to be a bit over the top reactionary. Now, I actually have it. I'm not going to say who I'm on about, but I have it on good authority that this is why early reactions are always mega over the top. So generally, they are very good. Now, I've seen some reactions saying this is the greatest not actually the greatest Spider-Man movie. I've seen some reactions saying this is the greatest movie of all time. Now, I could understand your standpoint if you're saying it's the greatest comic book movie of all time or best Spider-Man movie, but saying it's the greatest movie ever? Is it going to get 15 Oscars? No. Worcester, you're a hater? No, I'm actually really looking forward to watching this movie, so I'm not hating at all. It's just when you say it's the greatest movie of all time, you're kind of setting people's expectations too high to the point where it probably won't hit. So it is interesting. And what I find is there's a lot of people saying it's the greatest movie of all time, but they don't really say anything. And by them saying it's the greatest movie of all time, that's kind of affirmation and confirmation of realistically what people want to hear. Spider-Man No Way Home on Metacritic, it's got a pretty decent score. Metacritic is one of the more savage websites. So it's got a 71% so far. So we're going to go over the mixed reviews. So Richard Lawson from Vanity Fair had this to say. What I would say is the director John Watts handles the grand convergence of the properties, old and current one, with enough verge to almost sustain the long run of the film. But there is so much brand Frankensteining to be done that there really is no time for the quirk texture. Much of the bounce, sparkle of the past two Holland films is lost. That's negative. There has to be... The thing is, if there's no negative reviews at all, then the reviews are just fake. The Guardian, and that's a UK newspaper, 60%. Benjamin Lee. It's flawed for sure, but still moves with more deftones than most. Arriving after Eternals is a blessing for any Marvel film. And there's an ending that suggests an awareness of its roots. Post-credit scenes aside, hinting at a promising way forward rather than back, considering the curse of sorts broken. See, that's pretty good. Although they were negative, I really don't like it when people just go over the positive reviews because, let's be honest, literally every review for this movie is basically the same, pretty much. But I do find it interesting when we go over negative ones. So, Screen Daily. Once No Way Home finds its rhythm, the picture builds to a thoughtful, touching final act that does justice to heroism and self-sacrifice that has always been central to the Spider-Man appeal. See, that's a quite cute review. Rolling Stones, No Way Home is perfectly fine superhero movie. No Way Home is a perfectly fine superhero movie. You notice how it's not being defined as just a movie. It's a superhero movie. Screen Rant, No Way Home is Spider-Man's most intriguing and fun story yet. Through the multiverse, loop large. The film throughout its focus on Peter's journey, and that is something that I find nice. Everyone says it's focusing on Peter's journey. So, Rotten Tomato, the most freaking savage website, although Metacritic is savage, but when it comes to reviews, the most savage one tends to be Rotten Tomato. 100% based on 45 critics, so you've got to have a verified Rotten Tomato account to review this, so these people would have actually seen it. Let's go over a few and wrap this video up. I don't want it to be too long. Kirsten from Insider, easily a film you want to watch again. No Way Home is a ride. I never wanted it to end. It's a marvel that something ambitious came together. Nick from the Daily Beast, the finest wall-crawling MCU effort to date. Now, what I find interesting is No Way Home and Far From Home, realistically, guys, in my opinion, weren't very good. So, saying it's the greatest MCU Spider-Man movie ever, it realistically isn't saying a lot. Johnny from the New York Post, you have never left a Marvel film with so much uncertainty as to what comes next. Now, that's actually really interesting because I watched a non-spoiler review of someone saying, you know exactly what Marvel and Sony are going with the franchise forward, and Mr. Johnny from the New York Post kind of contradicted everything. This is what I mean. This is why you need a mix of reviews, because everyone can watch the same movie, watch the same end scene, watch the same post-credit scene, and will walk away with a completely different experience and completely different meaning of what they actually thought the ending meant, which I find fascinating. So yeah, we're going to wrap it up. So overall, actually no, Grace Randall. So let's go over Grace. Start strong, end strong, but the SNL sketch meets theme park in the middle. Multiverse aspects are actually the weakest, but Holland finally becomes Spidey from the comics. Grace Randall, the freaking savage. So, yep, the reviews are saying it's a very good movie, saying it's the best MCU Spider-Man movie, which realistically isn't hard to beat, but it's saying it's a Tom Holland, Peter Parker's focused movie, which is good because with the other villains coming from the other universes, supposedly, this movie could easily get saturated. Don't be fooled, guys, by the people saying it's the greatest Spider-Man movie ever. That could be true, but people saying it's the greatest movie ever, period. It's going to take a lot to take over into Spideyverse, and it's going to take a lot to take over Zack Snyder's Justice League for me personally, but I'm going to see it unbiased, and I'll give you my review. Don't worry, there'll be no spoilers in the title or thumbnail at all. So like always, guys, check us out on Instagram if you want to see the beautiful face behind the beautiful voice at Warstew on Instagram, Twitter, WarstewG. I have like 5 followers on Twitter, so if you want to interact with me on Twitter, I will respond because I have literally no followers. Check us out on twitch.tv/Warstew. Subscribe to the channel to help the channel grow. Comment 100 times to help the algorithm. Share with your best friend, your nan, your gran, literally everyone, someone on the bus, on the train. Just tell everyone to watch this video, and I'll catch you in another video, guys, very soon. Catch you later.